Well, g'day everyone. Welcome back to another Tips and Talks Tuesday. So this question came in from Aussie LN65 Hilux, and he basically wanted me to do some tips and stuff about bow hunting, basically where I hunt, when to draw, things like that. I probably have a bit of footage I can try and find in the archives about stuff I may have already talked about, or some footage sort of, showing what I'm going to talk about now. But basically, I might just do it in a few parts, but probably one of the biggest things I find for bow hunting is knowing the area well. If you're going to take your bow in with you, don't take your rifle with you. I've done that many times, but if you take your rifle, you'll just end up using your rifle. So just leave the rifle at home. If you see a giant stag and it's out of bow range, you just have to deal with it. It's happened to me a couple of times, but I think my favorite part about bow hunting is the extra challenge and getting in nice and close and having to know the area. It's very difficult with the bow if you're just going to go into somewhere new. I would advise actually understanding the area you want to hunt, getting to know it very well, working out the deer, their movements. Nice, man. Getting to understand the deer and their movements, their patterns, where they're feeding in and out of the bush. I personally really like fire breaks. So fire breaks between private property and state forest. If you don't have access to the private property, you can still hunt the state forest, and deer will regularly cross into the private property to feed on the better pastures. So if you can position yourself, a little way up the face into sort of the fringy country, if the bush isn't too thick, if you can position yourself there and try and catch the deer coming out or catch the deer going back in of a morning, you're increasing your chances a lot more without having to just aimlessly bash your way through the bush.
So here's a perfect example. These deer are on the state forest side of the fence. And I actually just mentioned in the clip coming up.
One time I don't have my bow. These deer are at like 30, 40 yards.
Yeah, so you just heard me whisper. They're at 30 or 40 yards and they are on the state forest side of the fence. So if I'd been on the other side of the fence and I didn't have access to the private where I was, I still could have legally shot these deer, and especially with the bow, because where they are, if I'd positioned myself up the top of that hill there, they would have crossed right past me. So to find these sort of areas, I typically look at Google Earth a lot and cross-reference it with the More to Explore app, so you can sort of do layovers and work out where's legal, where's not legal. But if you have a good look at Google Earth, and you can find some fire breaks and areas that are clear, but they're on the state forest side of the fence, you're allowed to hunt them. And I typically look for spots that people can't drive, that you've got to walk into. And that's probably one of the biggest tips for bow hunting that I would recommend, is really start focusing and studying on some Google Earth areas local to where you hunt, so you can spend a fair bit of time there, get some trail cameras out, and try and work out some patterns, try and work out the game trails. The game trails are the most sign, and if you sit on or off those game trails, you're probably going to see some deer very shortly. And if you're close enough with the bow, then hopefully you'll be able to get an arrow away. So hopefully that helps.